Uh-huh.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Yes, good. Okay. So, as always, I like to start with questions and have everyone interact. So, the first question I have is, how much do you hate failure? So, from 1 to 10, how much do you hate failure? 11. Okay. Anyone else? 8. Okay. 10. 9. Okay, so everyone 6. Okay, so pretty much everyone hates failure a lot. Like there's no one that enjoys failure. Does anyone enjoy failure? No.
No.
Okay. All right. The next question. Are you scared of failure?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, but if they come, I'm gonna take them.
Okay. Okay, if they come, you'll take them. That's a good, I think, mindset to have. All right. The next question. Do you have a failure that you're ashamed of?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay. How about a failure that you can't let go of? A failure that you keep thinking about even though it's been a month or 5 years or 10 years, something that you still can't stop thinking about. Yeah. Okay. Do you have a failure that is surprising? So a time that you weren't expecting to fail, but you did.
Yes. Years that I want to say something.
Yes.
We have this Memphis law. We say whatever that can happen will happen, and it will happen at the worst time. And if you feel or if you fear of some such failures or something, like if you are scared to fail in some aspect, sometimes it will happen, and it will happen at the very worst time. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, so you should have open expectations because anything can happen at any time. Okay. The next question is, how do you deal with failure? So maybe a couple of people can say, how do you deal with failure? So if you feel comfortable sharing. So maybe failure is very hard for you and you have to go back to your room and cry it out. Maybe failure, you eat and sleep. Okay. Some you go home and you order pizza because you're feeling bad, and then
he makes the pizza.
Oh, he makes Chef David.
Yeah.
Yes, Chef David makes
the pizza.
Yes. Okay. So that may be an option, or you may just brush it off and you keep going forward.
Make your lessons and never look back.
Okay.
But but you have to let it out, so you have to cry a little bit. If it's a very big failure.
Okay, so Maria thinks we need to let it out. Okay, so I guess raise your hand if you, I guess, sit in your failure. So like when it happens, you stop and you think about it. Is there anyone that does that? Like when failure happens, you stop and you kind of just absorb, or you go through it.
Depending on the kind of failure. Depending on the kind of failure.
Deception?
Okay, so depending on the kind of failure, okay.
Yes, you can be like 2-3 days, maybe depending on the, I don't know.
Okay, so maybe 2 or 3 days that
maybe,
you're...
Yeah, you observe it, you see, oh yeah, and then you take some lessons out of it, and then you just grab yourself back and say, oh, it's good, I need to get going, yeah.
Okay,
Those
2 or 3 days,
That's very short.
Yeah.
Some even take like some hours.
It can be.
It depends.
So yes, it depends on the person.
But the question is that in those days, what are we doing?
in those 2 days. Okay, so Isaac. Okay, so Nana, Isaac has a question. So what are you doing in those days? Those 2 or 3 days? What are you doing?
There is kind of failure. You have to face the consequences. Remember that.
Yeah.
So it won't take you 3 days. As you're going, you are on it, you're working on it, but you're facing consequences. So it's very hard for it to get out of your mind. But there are those that it takes some hours. Like, oh, you have to accept it within 1 hour and you move on. So it depends on the failure. The failure that you have to face the consequences, and it's not easy. You have to go through it.
Well, yeah, I think it depends. There are those who don't really stop to think about it. It happens. You're like, okay, this happened. What are my lessons? Pick them up, get going. That's it. So for those who actually stay there and cry over it, they spend that time. But for those who just pick their lessons and leave, it's more like, right away. What did I do wrong? This and that and that. Okay, next time we're not doing that again. Keep moving. Ignore, don't look back again. That is sort of another way of doing things.
Yeah. So what Jojo said is good, and that takes me to my first point, which is failure is subjective. There is no objective idea of failure for everyone. There is always someone that will be on the other side of your opinion. For example, getting a high score on an exam. So I actually remember in my freshman year of high school, I was in an Algebra 2 class. And in that class, well, I was in advanced classes in high school, so I had a lot of smart people in my class. And so one of the kids in that class, he was named Aaron. And Aaron was very good at math. So he got 100s on most of his assignments, like tests and quizzes. One time, however, he didn't. He got a 98. He took his 98 and went up to the teacher and argued about the 2 points that he was missing. A 98%, he argued for it to be 100. The rest of the class said, "What are you doing?" But the idea is, failure is subjective. He hated his result, but he had a result almost everyone else in the class wouldn't have said another word about. Another example, arguing in a relationship. So let's say you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend and you're arguing and you're in your room, you're upset, you don't want to do your homework, you're just mad at everything. And then you talk to a friend and your friend's like, "What are you mad about?" And you're like, "Man, me and my girlfriend, we can't figure things out right now." And then your friend is like, "What are you complaining about?" And then you wonder what's wrong. And then your friend's like, "Well, you have a girlfriend." That's success. Even though you're fighting right now, you have a girlfriend. So another example of failure being subjective. Another example is going to college, going to university. You're there, you're having a tough time, you can't make any friends. But on the other hand, college and university is something that the numbers are about, I think, 1% or less than 1% of the world's population actually gets to go to college or university. So you're not making friends, but you're also in the top 1% of the world in something, which is pretty special for any category, honestly. So once again, failure is subjective. The next thing I think is important is that failure has to be kept in perspective. So for example, if you're a little kid, I'm sure when we were all little, we had favorite toys. And one time you broke a toy and you were very sad. You went to your mom, you were crying, my toy's broken, get me a new one, you thought the world was ending, and your mom either put it back together or just went and got you a new one, and that was it. But for you, this toy was the most important thing to you. Even though you had clothes and food and friends and all these other things, you weren't thinking about any of that. You were thinking about the toy that is broken. And that was controlling your emotions. So that's an example of failure not being in perspective. Then you get older and you have relationships. Someone said they had a fear of being rejected. I forgot who. But you try to ask someone out, they said no. And now you...
Sorry, bro. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Did that hit close to home? Was that too close to home?
Sorry. Everything you're fine.
So you ask someone out and they say no, and it just hits hard. And you know, for the rest of your day, actually this happened to me personally, and it actually happened with the new year. So in 7th grade, after the new year, I decided to start off the new year. I was going to go to school, and on the first day, riding the bus to school, I would tell this girl that I liked her.
Oh.
So I talked to another friend about it who knew both of us, and she said, yeah, you know, like, go for it. But what happened was that this friend broke the news to her before I did. And then she sent me a message, I think the Sunday before I even got to do this. She sent me the message saying, oh, I heard that you like me, but I don't like you. And yes, so my whole plan just, my plan failed. But even though, like, so for me, I was like embarrassed, and I think I didn't talk to her for like 3 days or something. The story ends well, so her and I, we've been best friends since then. That was like 11 or 12 years ago.
How does it work?
So, Marcelo, you're perfect.
Yeah.
So we've been friends since then, but that was a rough moment. And then, you know, you get older, and now at this age, some of us are looking for jobs. And you're trying to find a job because your parents are starting to say, you need to go somewhere, like, stop living off of us, find your own life. And even if your parents don't say that, you do want to go to university or start some job or something. And sometimes you get rejected.
Failure to put on.
So you try to find a job, you try to go to school, and it doesn't work, and you feel like a failure. You are not being the person that your parents or your friends or you think you're supposed to be. And it kind of hurts. But you have to remember that that's just one part of things. A job is 8 hours out of a day. That's 1/3 of your day. There's still 2/3 of your day that have nothing to do with that. That you are still relevant and you still matter doing other things. So perspective, I think, is important. And then another thing I think is that failure can be your fault, but not for the reasons that you think. So, how many of you have had New Year's resolutions? New Year's resolution, something you wanted to do in the new year. The new year came and you said, I'm going to do this. And you tried to do it. Yes? Okay.
Actually, I think I have to say that. I think I even wrote it. Honestly speaking, I was praying about coming to Ukraine to study for medicine. And I tried it in 2017, But my parents was like, who do you know in Ukraine and all that? And I prayed about it. I remember praying about it. And my late uncle who died this year, he told me in 2017 that year, like, I think your father is going to take you to Ukraine. But my parents wanted me to go to USA, and we were arguing about it. So when 2018 came and I told my parents, that they were like, go for it. And I remember I got a visa. So that's what I prayed for. And it was like I was coming from something, and I just wanted to come to Ukraine, and it happened in this year. And I will thank you to that. 2019, yeah.
You're welcome.
Yes, so
You are welcome.
So for your New Year's resolution, for that goal, how much did you really want that goal?
Well, it depends on the time.
So that question, I think, is one important question to have with failures and with the goals we set. How much did you want that thing? Because sometimes we say, oh, I failed, but it's not something you wanted. For example, you wanted to work out more. So you said, I'll go to the gym 3 times a week. But after a month or so, it was like, I woke up a little bit late this morning. I don't want to go. I had a hard day. I don't want to go. And then you stop going. But the question is, did you really want that thing? Or did it just sound nice? Or learning a language. You said, oh, this language sounds cool. But you didn't really you studied maybe for a month, maybe a few weeks, but you stopped. Why? And for a lot of people, it's not really wanting it. Like, it sounded nice, but we didn't really want it. So it didn't work out, and then we think, oh, we failed. And then it's like, well, you didn't really fail, you just didn't want that thing. There's another side to this also. How many of us have had a hard class at school? A hard class at school. Algebra, geography, biology. A hard class, yes? Yes. How did you do in that class? Did you get a good grade?
Not really.
No, not really.
By cheating.
Good grades, good marks?
What are you saying, Maria?
By cheating? Yes.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's one every student has done before.
Thank you.
No, hold on, slow down.
Especially
For you.
Especially Jojo.
Especially Jojo.
Do you
Especially Jojo.
Stephen, how
Okay.
You know, look at how he's sitting. He just wants to show that, yes, he cheated.
Okay. So we all had that hard class, and our grades were okay. My question about that is, how hard did you actually try? You don't have to answer, but from most of my friends and people that I've talked to, I've learned that most people, when they get into these hard situations, they don't actually try a lot of the time. They may try a little bit. You do enough to get a grade in the class to pass it, and you can go to next year, but you don't actually try to do well because you don't believe that it can even happen. That, I believe, is honestly a failure in itself. So, one quote that I thought of, I guess, in making this message is, sometimes we fail, but sometimes we fail to fail. Meaning, sometimes we fail because we try something and it doesn't work. Sometimes, though, we don't allow ourselves the opportunity to fail. Either because we don't try, or because it's not something that actually matters to us. So then it's something that we do, but it doesn't actually mean anything. and then we end up with bad results. So that's something I want us to think about. Now, I do believe that people are strong. I believe people will do whatever they want to do. So, for example, there are old marathon runners. For example, one lady, her name is Gladys Burrow. She's 92 years old, and she ran a marathon in 9 hours and 50 minutes at 92 years old. She started running when she was 84 years old. So it's not something that she's done her whole life. She started it late, and she's doing it. How many people here think they could run a marathon? No one?
Not 10 meters.
Not 10 meters. Okay, so there's an example of people doing what they want. Another example, one guy, James Klemovich, he was 76 years old. He got stuck in a winter storm for 10 days. He survived by melting snow and drinking it until he was found. 10 days at 76 years old in a winter storm, and he survived. There's one more example. This is an example of a doctor that lost weight. This doctor saw his sister die of cancer, and after he saw that, he lost 125 pounds in 18 months. So over 100 pounds, in kilos, that's about 50 kilos. So about 50 kilos in 18 months because of what he saw with his sister. And a quote from this experience from him, he said, "I've learned so much about myself. I've learned that when I put my mind to something and have a good enough reason, I can achieve anything." And I think that quote is important. He said, when I put my mind to something, so when I want it, and when I have a good enough reason, when it matters, I can achieve anything. And I think that is important for us to move past some failures that I believe we don't actually have to experience. I think some failures we do have to go through because we don't have a choice. But sometimes I think we can bring failure on ourselves. So we control ourselves and we control our actions. And you cannot blame anyone else for your decisions. That's what I believe. You cannot blame anyone for a decision you make because you are yourself. They didn't make you do something. You decided to do it. And you have control. You just have to accept, like Maria said, you have to deal with consequences. So that isn't fun, but we do have control. But that's, okay, that sounds negative. On the other hand, the positive side, failure the first time does not mean you will always fail. So this, I think, we could use for our New Year's resolutions. If you decide to go to the gym, and for January, you do good. 3 times a week, got it. In February, it drops down to 2 or 3, and by March, you're struggling to do 1 time a week. That's fine. What most people do is that in April, they say, okay, I failed, I'm not going to do this anymore. What I think we should do is just start over. In April, just go back to doing 3 times. Don't wait until next year to start again. Just start like nothing ever happened. Believe that you can do it and just try again. That is, sometimes just trying again is what we need. Failure is not permanent. Also, do not make promises you are not committed to. Don't do things for other people that you really don't want to do if you do not have to do it, okay? Whether that's working at church sometimes, because I know church people can pressure us, or if it's something in a friendship where your friend says, it's a holiday, you want to stay home, and your friend's like, let's take a trip to Odessa for the weekend, and you just want to stay home, but then your friend's like annoying you, like, come on, let's go, let's go. Don't do that. Don't go with your friend if you really do not have to. Because if you do go, and then you look sad, and your friend knows this, you're sad, you're on this trip, your friend's not happy, and no one really gets what they want. So, do both of you a favor, and be honest to yourself and to those around you. And also be fair to yourself. Don't be mean to yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. We're human, we do fail, it happens. But like I said before, failure is not the end of the world. So accept what you can control, but don't blame yourself for things that you can't control. And in closing, in your plans and goals and dreams for next year, know that failure is possible, but it is not the end of the story. Keep going even if you mess up. Fail for the right reasons. Yes, fail for the right reasons. You are allowed to fail. But just try to be better and try to reach your goals. And don't let life, the devil, or the people around you stop you from being great. Okay, that is all.
Thank you.
How do you see it?